welcome to the Healthy Living, Happy Life podcast, where we ditch the doubts and embrace our potential and live our best life in midlife. I'm Denise Stegall, your host, and I am here to help you thrive personally and professionally because we know that life is more than just work and family. There's so many other things to enjoy in life. So last week on my podcast, I talked about the one thing that you can do that will essentially make 2025 your best year. And that is mindset. Talked a little bit about how, in the new year, we're always talking, oh, new year, new you, and how much I hate that. But truly, it is about a mindset and a mindset shift. And I'm going to talk more today about why this is actually the foundation for success, business success, professional success, personal success, whatever success means to you, right? And how this can really turn midlife into a time of frustration because there's so many things going on. Our bodies are changing. Hormones are all over the place. Maybe your kids are out of the house. Maybe, they're in high school or college. So you have different things going on. But this could also be a great time of growth, of empowerment. And this one I love, possibility. So let's get started. And I do promise to always sprinkle a little bit of humor in because we know that laughing through life's changes and challenges is actually a mindset shift as well. So let's talk about this. We're talking more and more about midlife and menopause and perimenopause and postmenopause and all this nonsense. Now, when I was younger, when I started going through this, nobody was talking about it, which is why I talk about it. Because it's heavy. It could be a lot. So, but let's be real. It's kind of a weird in-between stage, right? Where your body seems to be, sometimes I feel like my body is like staging a rebellion against me. Whether it's hot flashes or night sweats. I don't really deal with that anymore. If you need some support with that, definitely schedule some time and we'll chat. How about weight gain? That seems to stick around no matter what you do. You're eating less, you're exercising more. Are you exercising the way you should? That's another question. Maybe it seems like your libido has gone on vacation, like permanent vacation, right? All sound familiar. Am I correct here? Or am I the only one going through this? I know I'm not because I have many, many people who are saying to me, oh, yep, they're shaking their head going, oh yeah, Denise. The thing that I find really frustrating is this last piece where women will just say to me, well, I'm just getting old. That little voice that's in your head saying that, oh no, you're just getting old. You just have to deal with it. It's fibbing. It is a liar. You are not getting old. You are getting older. Yes, that is, we're all getting older, right? We're not getting younger. You're not getting old. You're getting older. Your brain makes you think that you are old. Old is relative. What is old? I mean, when I was a teenager, I thought my father, when he turned 50, he was old. Now that I'm 53 and 3/4, 50 is not old. Like, I don't even know. I mean, I think of 90 as being old now, right? So old is really relative. It really is about how you feel physically, emotionally, mentally. When you look in the mirror and you like what you see, we're not perfect. We're not going to be 20 again. We're not going to look like we did when we were 20. We're going to aim for the best feeling and the best we can look and feel at this stage in our life, right? So one of the things that I've learned through the years, you probably heard about this the very first time in high school. And of course, subsequently, every I don't know, person that I talked to, every class that I went to in college, we talked about this a bit, quite a bit. And this is the thought of, or the concept that what you think about, you bring about. It's not just this motivational, what do you think about it? What do you bring about? No, it's not all that fluffy stuff. It sounds it, I know. There's actually neuroscience behind it, and that I can get behind, truly. Your mindset can either lock you into a cycle of negativity, right? Or it can open the door to the possibilities you didn't even think were available because until today, you were not open to it, right? So, what is this, all about this? What you think about, you bring about. And how does this science work? So, have you ever either bought a car or bought a dress or something, and then suddenly you see the same car everywhere, or you go out for dinner and three other ladies are wearing the same dress, right? You'd never seen it before. You thought, oh, it's a one of a kind. Yeah, no, right? Everybody's got it. This is actually your reticular activating system, otherwise known as the RAS, at work. It is, I'm going to get a little science and nerdy here, guys. It is a tiny part of your brain, right? A tiny yet mighty part of your brain, let's say, that acts as a filter and it prioritizes what you focus on, right? It's actually a network of neurons located at the base of your head. If you're watching me on video, you're watching me touch the base of my head. If you're not, if you're just listening to this on audio, I'm touching the base of my head, the back of my neck. So it's right at the base of your brainstem. And its primary role, it's got a lot, I say primary role, but it's actually got quite a few. Basically, it controls our states of sleep and waking and that fight or flight mechanism, right? We all know what that is. It's also responsible for certain automatic functions like breathing. So we kind of want to have our RAS working, right? We don't want to stop breathing just because luckily we don't have to think about that. But the other thing, and this is where it comes in to play with what we're talking about, is it filters out the things that we need to know. Now think about all of the stuff that's coming at you all day long, right? From the minute you get up, there's the news, there's your kids or your spouse. You get in the car and you're driving to work, and then there's everybody at work and all of this stuff, people talking to you, questioning you, just things around you to recognize and notice. Am I in a safe place? Safe place. Whatever it may be, right? There's so many things coming at you all day long that if you actually needed to respond to everything, you'd be exhausted by 7 a.m. and go back to bed. No, I would. In my book, Healthy Thinking, Happy Life, it's this really pretty blue one. It's called the subtitle is Master Your Mindset and Get Done. I say the bleep because I'm not sure if I can say the word, actually say it out loud. I know my mother would probably give me the wave her finger at me. You should say that on TV, or you should say that on your podcast. Anyway, in the book, my friend Matthew Lucetti, who I have known since first grade, wrote his chapter specifically about his situation, his story, and the RAS, right? So if you're stuck in this mindset saying, oh, I'm too old, I'm too tired, whatever potentially negative things you are saying to yourself, your reticular activating system is actually going to find evidence to back that up, right? If you're saying, oh, I'm too old to do that, and then your brain, your RAS is going to find some evidence like there's a younger person doing it. So say it's yoga, right? We know anybody any age can do yoga, but you say to yourself, oh, I'm too old to learn that. That's past. I could have done that when I was younger. So you're saying this to yourself, and then you keep seeing images of these really young, fit 20-something gals doing yoga, right? Well, yeah, that's the evidence that you've already decided that you were too old to do yoga. And now your RAS is showing you photos of these young women. That's basically just saying to you, see, I told you, right? But just what if you flip that and you start thinking of positive things, right? The good news is you can retrain your RAS to focus and use it to actually attract the things and the life that you want, right? We've all been trained to do things a certain way, whether it's, from the time when we were kids, our parents told us to act a certain way, to do a certain thing, religious beliefs, going to school, they taught you how to act a certain way, all of this stuff, right? I remember when I was in high school, graduating to go to college, there was always that next step. You get out of high school, you go to college, you're a freshman, then you're a sophomore, then you're a junior, then you're a senior. There's always these kind of steps. And it's during those times when, we have experiences, positive, negative, neutral, whatever, but usually it's the negative ones that stick with us. So in this stage in life, in midlife, wherever you are in that, and I normally say midlife 45 to 65, right? When I was 40, I wasn't thinking of myself as a woman in midlife, right? At 53, I'm pretty much in the middle, right? I mean, if you consider typical lifespan, my mom's 83, she just turned 83. I'm as healthy, probably healthier than she was when she was my age. So realistically, in all probability, let's just say I'm going to live at least until I'm 83. That's 30 years from now. I got a lot of living to do, right? So I want to live my life in this next 30 years my way. I've done do the things that I was supposed to do because, my parents said so, or school said so, or the company that I worked for said so. No, this is our time. This is my time, right? So I'm going to focus on positivity and things that I want into my life. Now, there's also, some meditation that people will add into this. Oh, I do meditation on this. Yes, that's great. That is another layer of bringing your life or creating the life that you want to live, a life designed by you as opposed to something that just kind of happens to you, right? So how do we do this? How do we retrain our RAS to see, one, how do we train ourselves to start saying the positive things about ourselves, about our situation, about the things we want, right? And then start to cultivate this mindset and really retrain our RAS. So I'm going to break it down into a couple of actionable steps, because mindset really isn't something you think about, even though it's mind, mindfulness, all of that. It's actually something that you have to practice, right? It's called a meditation practice. It's called a yoga practice. We're calling this a mindset practice, okay? So if you've listened to me for a while, you know that I talk a lot about the sage and saboteurs. The saboteurs, the saboteurs are the nagging voice that tells you that you're not good enough. Whatever it's telling you, you're too fat, you're too skinny, you're too this, you're too that, you can't do this for this reason, you can't do that for that reason, right? And those are your saboteurs, or your saboteur voice, I'll just say. Quite a bit like, the little voice inside your head, limiting beliefs, all of that. Basically, this is your saboteur. I say that because you're sabotaging your own thoughts. It's you thinking this, right? But again, this is something that you've been trained to based on, how you grew up, school, like I said, religious beliefs, all of those things, right? So what I like to do, and I always tell my clients is, let's call out that saboteur, right? Let's call him out. We're going to fight with it, because, it's not helping us. It's harming us. Now, initially, the saboteur, when we look at the saboteur through the positive intelligence community, essentially, the saboteur started when you were young, like when you were less than 8 years old. And it was something that actually was there to protect you, right? But at midlife now, you don't need that kind of protection. But your voice, you're just been trained to, you've just been trained to say these things over and over, limiting beliefs, saboteur, give a name, right? So I would say to you, as I do my clients, call it out, right? Ask yourself, all right, there, saboteur, is this helpful for me or is it harmful for me? Right? Are you doing me good? Are you holding me back? Am I going to get what I want? Am I going to get something I don't want? I tell you what, the spoiler alert here, that is important for you to know. It's never, ever hopeful. It's always harmful because it holds you back. It keeps you playing small and it keeps you from doing the things that you want to do in order to live your midlife happy life. Whether you're looking to, eat better, feel better, have more energy, change your career or, learn something new. Like everybody nowadays plays pickleball, right? I have a friend who's like, oh, I don't want to do that. Well, I don't know. I feel stupid. No, don't do it. Why would she feel stupid? Because her saboteur said that she would feel stupid because in the past, when she's tried exercise, she wasn't good at it. So her saboteur says, but what if she actually had fun? What if it was actually something where she could, she could go and open up and meet new people? That would be helpful, right? Not harmful. So anyway, so call out that saboteur. Anytime you have this negative thought that comes to your mind, ask yourself that question. Is this thought helpful or is it harmful? Is it going to bring you closer to what you desire? Number two, reframe challenges, right? We do this all the time. We've kind of given things new names, like, we have opportunities instead of challenges, right? Yeah, we do. If we think every obstacle is a challenge, that's exhausting. We dread doing things. So when something tough happens, seriously, instead of spiraling into this, oh no, why me? This always happens to me, right? Reframe this and ask yourself, okay, what can I learn from this? This is an absolute game changer. Again, it's going from a negative mindset, a negative place, and negative energy. Negative energy attracts negative energy. Who wants more negative energy if you're already stuck in a negative energy, right? You want to move over into some positive energy. And so asking yourself that question already is leading into more positivity because they're not stuck. You're questioning, what can I learn from this? Right? And then sometimes it's hard to find. I will agree that sometimes it's hard to find right away what you're going to learn from this challenge opportunity, right? But unless you question it, you'll always be stuck in that negative mindset and you'll always be stuck where you are. There's nothing worse than looking back at the end of a year and being in the same exact place you were in the beginning of the year, right? We're going to avoid that. We're going to move forward. We're going to learn. We're going to grow. We are going to get closer and closer to living a life that we absolutely love. No more just going through the motions. No more doing everything for everybody else and leaving ourselves behind. Okay. Number three, and most of these are not earth shattering. You've heard these things before. You've heard me say these things before. Daily gratitude. A daily gratitude practice, there's that word again, practice, can absolutely change your whole life in just a matter of days, right? Again, when you jot things down, and I always say, jot 3 things down every day that you're grateful for. It doesn't have to be anything profound, like, it could be something stupid like, oh, I didn't burn my toast this morning, especially if it's something that you burn your toast all the time. You didn't burn your toast this morning. I'm grateful for that. You did really good toast, right? Gratitude again rewires your brain, and that's what we're doing with this reticular activating system. Is we're rewiring it. It creates new neural pathways, right? Your brain is actually it's well, we know it's kind of amazing, but your brain can change and grow. Okay, just because you've done things the same way over and over doesn't mean your brain can't change over and learn something new, right? We know that people, in their 80s and 90s can learn new things. Guess what? In midlife, you can learn some new things. You can rewire your brain just by practicing simple gratitude. Now, I do have a gratitude journal that is actually my written by my friend David George Brook. And I will have that up, a link to that in the show notes, because it really is a wonderful journal, because it gives you prompts. It only takes 5 minutes a day, and it really does set your day up for success. Some people like to do, just to write down at the end of the day, how their day was, 3 things that they're grateful for before they go to bed. And I think that's fantastic, to do a little bit of both. Again, it's a practice, right? The more you do it, the better you get at it. But again, by starting your day off with a little bit of gratitude, you're already changing your RAS to thinking in a very different way. And by saying these things and writing them down, you're actually going to find more and more evidence that things are good. You'll find, again, the whole thing with the car. You buy a car, no, everybody seems to have one, right? The more positive things you say about yourself, the more you're going to find. Okay. Let's see. This one is hard for a lot of people, is visualization. Now, I'm not somebody who can close my eyes and literally see pictures, but I can create in my head. Like, I know what things look like. So if I say, close your eyes and picture yourself, nailing this presentation, or, beating your best, or what is it? Not beating your best time, running your best time in, say, a 5K. I did that at Thanksgiving. Right? Okay, so let's just think of that. Like, close your eyes and picture yourself doing this. You're running through and you've beat your time. Now, I don't actually see myself running, but I know what it feels like. I can create a vision in my mind's eye. I'm not seeing things. A lot of people do actually see pictures in their head when they start visualizing. I don't necessarily do that. So, but it doesn't mean that visualizing isn't helpful. It is incredibly helpful. It helps reinforce your beliefs in your abilities or in the things that you desire. So if you want something really badly, say you want next year, you want to go on vacation to Hawaii, picture yourself in Hawaii. What are you going to wear? Are you going to be wearing a bathing suit? Are you going to be wearing a pretty dress? Are you going to have is it your toes in the sand? Are you going to be surfing? Think about these things. Say visualize. Yes, if you see images, that's great. Not just think of these things. And the more you think about them, the more it helps reinforce the desire, and the closer you will come to actually getting that to happen, making that happen. The final thing is, with this positive mindset, I also interchangeably very often call it your sage mindset. Sage, however, goes deeper. The sage is all about love. It's about empathy. It's about curiosity. It's truly your brain's happy place. And when you approach challenges with creativity and resilience instead of panic and dread, what happens? You feel good. You feel energized. You feel confident. Things start to happen. Opportunities pop up. You notice possibilities. I think I said that twice. Anyway, all of these great things. So when you connect with a more sage mindset, which, yes, is a positive mindset, but truly involved in love and empathy and curiosity and all of these positive feelings, what happens? Your energy and the neurons around you, all of this energy around you just grows, right? We said earlier, negative attracts negative, but guess what? Positive attracts positive. So connecting with that sage mindset is so important for you to go from here to that next level. Okay. I'm going to tell you 2 quick stories. So I have a client who she's about the same age as me, and I've known her for quite some time. And when I first met her, she always kind of seemed, she was like the negative Nelly in the group. Her response to everything was like, well, we can't do that. That won't work. And came up with all of the reasons why not, right? Rather than, why can't we, right? What can we do to make this work? After just 2 weeks of working on her mindset with me, she said to me, she says, Denise, this is life changing. This is absolutely life changing. Now, this is almost a year later, she can reframe negative thoughts into opportunities or possibilities. And she has actually become a great problem solver. Rather than being part of the problem, she's actually helping to create the solution. Whether that's, in her business, with her team, with her own family. Yes, this works for, with all relationships. If you want to have a great relationship with your family, with your spouse, with your mom, these are things to really work on, because the more positive you are and the more positive energy you have, the more people see that, the more you bring that out, the positive in them. The other person I want to talk to you about is Rachel, who's 49 years old. So kind of, maybe at the earlier end of midlife, as we say. She had a really hard time accepting compliments. Truly, it was terrible. She would kind of brush it off, like, and I know there have been times when I've done this myself. Someone would say to me, "Oh, that's a great dress," and I would say, "Oh, thanks. I got this in the consignment shop," or, "Oh, it's even better because I got it on sale." Rather than just taking the compliment and saying thank you. Yes, as women, it's really a difficult thing for us to accept compliments because, again, it's kind of in our, um, as we were growing up, we were told, oh, that's being snotty, or, what's the word that I'm looking for? Be above your station or whatever, kind of people thinking, you are who, you're above who you are, who do you she think she is, that kind of thing. But this one time, she actually joked after she got an award. She said, they probably ran out of candidates. They didn't have anybody to actually give it to, so they gave it to me. Ouch. How negative is that on her? And so when she said that to people who were congratulating her, it just brought the whole moment down. It brought all of this negativity to what really could have been a very special, positive moment. And then where do you go after saying something like that and bringing everybody kind of down? Where do you go? Right? It's hard to take the conversation to another level because you've already kind of like thud, dropped it on the floor. But now, after shifting her mindset and embracing, I would say, her worth, her confidence is through the roof. She now is very positive. She's very energetic. She still every now and then has to catch herself. I mean, we all do. No one's perfect, right? And again, this is a practice. She is so much different when it comes to her children. She would have this negativity and this negative thought process, and it would actually reflect on her kids, and both of them in different ways. So this is actually something that has changed her life. It's also changed the life of the people around her. So let me think. I'm going to get a little nerdy again. I know I was a little nerdy with the science stuff behind the RAS, but also I wanted to mention this study that studies do show that a growth mindset, positive mindset, things are good. We can look at opportunities, possibilities, all of those things. Doesn't just boost your confidence. It actually has a positive impact on your health, like your overall well-being. So a 2020 study, it was in Frontiers of Psychology, found that people with a positive outlook, sage mindset, give it a name, had lower cortisol levels. Cortisol, of course, is that stress hormone. So they had lower cortisol, lower stress, and because of that, improved overall well-being. About it, stress is the cause of so many challenges that we have today, right? Depression, anxiety, feeling exhausted, feeling like we're not enough. All of these things, when we have really high cortisol levels, our stress levels are high. We have trouble sleeping at night. because the cortisol levels have to come down in order for melatonin to take over at night for you to sleep. Well, if your cortisol levels are so high, they never get down low enough for melatonin to really take over. So again, of course, that is going to improve your health when you're lowering the cortisol, lowering your stress, getting better sleep, right? And improve your overall wellness, physical, emotional, mental, all of those things. One of the people who I always love to quote is Carol Dweck. She is the queen of the growth mindset research, and she's been around forever. I mean, I think I can't even remember when I read her book initially, and I've reread it a couple of times, you know, since then. Just because every now and then, when you read a book and then you reread it, you find something new. There's something different in the book that you understand better, or I mean, very often, sometimes, you know, you'll gloss through something, and then when you go back, you just understand it better because it takes a little bit of time to really kind of digest. But she says mindset changes everything. It's not just a belief system, it's a physiological response that drives your actions, your emotions, and eventually your success. So, of course, mindset isn't all about, oh, this is all kumbaya, you know, rainbows and motivational quotes. They have their place. And let's be real, sometimes we have to laugh through all of the ridiculousness of it all. Um, you know, you like, here's this thing, you know, you're doing yoga and you realize your inner peace is being interrupted by hot flashes, right? You're doing yoga and you're having a nice time, and all of a sudden you're like dying because, you know, you're having a hot flash, right? I mean, you kind of got to laugh at it sometimes. You know, if we don't, we'd all be in the loony bin, right? You know, the other thing I noticed is, you know, another thing to laugh at is, you know, you're searching around your house for 20 minutes, right? You're like, where are my glasses? Where are my glasses? I do this constantly, right? I'm always looking for my glasses, you know, and then, you know, you say to your husband, or I say to my husband, I can't find my glasses. And he'll look up and he'll go, they're sitting on my head the whole time. Okay. Most of the time they're not on my head. Most of the time they're downstairs in my office on my desk. But anyway, another important part of this positive mindset, sage mindset, is laughter. So let's not take everything so seriously, okay? Humor itself is a mindset, right? We have to be able to laugh things off every now and then. I'm not saying to laugh off the tough stuff, you know, the things that are really important, but how many things are really important, right? This is a way to remind yourself not to take life, midlife, and menopause too seriously. Yes, we're changing, but with change comes opportunity. So here's the truth here, everyone. You can't just change the fact that midlife brings all, you know, different things kind of happening, you know, coming at you. But you can, again, change how you respond to them. And that is all with your mindset. So what I'd love for you guys to do is to, if you're listening to this on YouTube or on any place you find your podcast, please, on YouTube, ring the bell, leave me a comment, tell me what you want to hear about. I love talking about this stuff because it's so important that, you know, we get a chance to hear what menopause and midlife is about from each other, right? And that is so important. We want to make sure that we are thriving in this stage of our life, because if we're not thriving today, we're not going to be thriving next year, in the next decade, and down the road. And again, that all starts with mindset. So if you get a chance, schedule a strategy call with me, and let's take that first step toward creating that mindset that empowers you to thrive and to find that life that you have been dreaming of. Okay? Thrive in 2025 starts now. Let's make it happen, guys. Thank you for joining me, and don't forget to subscribe. We will talk to you same time next week. Have a great week.